Hello, everyone. It's Megan here, and welcome to the Momentum with Megan live weekly show right here inside of the Structured Freedom for Impact-Driven Coaches. Come on in. This is our weekly live show. Go ahead and let me know that you're here. If you're listening live, just type #live in the comment section. If you're catching the replay, #replay. And let me ask you guys a question. Where's everybody tuning in from? So let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in from another country, let us know what country and city you're in. If you're tuning in from the US, let us know what state or what city you are joining us from. And I am really excited for today's call. I'm just going to pull my notes up here. Let me get my computer situated so I can see any comments that come through. And then I can also see my notes so that we stay on track. So how many of you, let me know in the comments, would love to be generating 5 figures of recurring revenue in less than 2 weeks, multiple times throughout the year? If that sounds like something that would be super amazing for you and your business, just go ahead and let me know. Hey, Julie, good to see you. Hey, Leslie. Hey, Cindy, good to see you. In your easy chair. Awesome. All right. So today, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to leave you with, let's see, I've got 3 different training points that I'm going to leave you with so that you can start generating 5 figures of recurring income every single month, whatever that is for you. So recurring income, 5 figures. If you're not yet at 10K months, this can help you get to 10K months. If you're already at 10K months in recurring revenue, this can bump you up to 20K, or if your goal is 30K, or 50K, or even higher. So there's really no limitation here. So we're gonna talk about that, and I may even have you do a little bit of math today. I think it's super helpful for you to see numbers. So let's dive in. Selling one-to-many to fill your flagship group program. There's 3 top things that you want to have in place to do that. So I'm going to start a little higher level overview of what those things are, and then I'll get into some of the specifics. So if you want to start generating recurring income every single month, one of the ways that you want to do that is through the power of group coaching programs. So the majority of our clients are either creating group coaching programs for the first time, so they're moving from a one-to-one coaching model where they've been coaching a lot of clients. Maybe they have a full roster of clients. I think we all have our own threshold of one-on-one clients, whether that's 8 people or 10 people or 12 people or 15 people. In fact, I don't even work with people one-on-one anymore. I don't even have a one-on-one offer. So sometimes at some point we get to a place in our businesses where we realize one-on-one and like just working with one individual for a really long period of time, it's not actually what lights us up. It's not what brings us joy, or it's not how we help people produce the best results, or it's just not the business model that we want. So most of our clients are either moving in the direction of high-end group coaching programs, or they already offer group coaching programs, and we're really working with them to optimize what they already have in place, because they've kind of gotten to, it's like, okay, great, well, you have a group coaching program, but how can we build on what you already have? Do we need to relaunch it? Do we need to relaunch it in a different way? Do we need to optimize lead generation? Do we need to optimize the sales process? You know, what do we need to do? So that's typically what we work with at Structured Freedom in our programs, in our Momentum program. And then we also have a mastermind program where people are already making 6 and multiple 6 figures, and they're really moving up to $500,000 a year in their business. So what are the high-level things that you need in order to really transition from this model where you're either working with people one-on-one and or you are filling your groups one-to-one? So let me explain what I mean by that. Lots of times people will start a group coaching program. So it's like, yes, I have created a model now. I've created an offer where I can at least leverage my time in terms of delivery. And oftentimes when people first transition into a group, they're not transitioning into like 100 people in a group. They're transitioning into a smaller group. So that might be 4 people, 6 people, 8 people, 10 people, 12 people, 15 people, could be 20 people. But usually someone's like first go around or first couple of go arounds, it's fewer people. And some people never want to have like these big, massive group coaching programs, and that's totally fine as well. Where I see people getting a little hung up, not hung up, you end up hitting like a plateau or like an income ceiling or a growth ceiling. And the truth is, we all know this, there's only so many hours in a day. We all only have so much bandwidth. And for most of us, when we get to a certain level, you start to notice yourself no longer being as motivated by the same things, or you have mastered something, the thing, you've mastered it, you've mastered how to get to that level, and you no longer feel challenged by it anymore. You can get really complacent, you can get really comfortable, and if you're in this industry, if you're in the coaching, helping, online education industry, you're teaching people to transform and grow because you're also very obsessed with transformation and growth within yourself. And for a lot of us, you know, everything we come in contact with helps us grow, but for most of us here, entrepreneurship, it just so happens that that's the vehicle that we all stepped into for greater levels of growth and transformation. Let me give you an example of what I mean. This is a really good example. How many of you have seen Michael Jordan's documentary? It's called The Last Dance. It came on in, I think it came on in April and May on ESPN, and they played it like, I think it was ESPN. They were playing like 1 episode a week for 10 weeks or 2 episodes a week for 10 weeks when all the sports were shut down and they weren't showing live sports on ESPN because nobody was playing. Well, now you can watch The Last Dance on Netflix. So I'm a really big Michael Jordan fan. I don't really remember ever watching him play. He was really popular in the 80s and the 90s. Those of you from North Carolina know Michael Jordan is from Wilmington. He played college at UNC Chapel Hill under Dean Smith in the 80s. I was born in 1982, so I wouldn't have ever seen him play in college. And then he was in the NBA in the 80s and the 90s. And I was pretty young and I wasn't playing basketball. So I don't really remember much about seeing him play in the 90s, but I've always studied greatness and I've always been really drawn to studying athletes. And so I study successful people and the mentality behind successful people. It's one of the things I do often, and typically my go-to is other athletes. And so some of you have been in my group coaching mastery masterclass. We just finished that yesterday. Well, one of the things that I do, and I did it this time, every night after I put my daughter to bed, I rewatched the whole entire series of The Last Dance. Because if I want to be great at what I do and masterful, I'm going to go study greatness. And so I was watching it, I think it was last night's episode or the night before. No, it was the night before. I don't know what episode I'm on. And it's when Michael Jordan, it was 1993, and the year prior, nobody really knew this, but he had told some people, his dad, some other reporters or close people in his entourage, that he kind of thought like this next year, the 1993 season, was going to be his last season. He had won 2 championships. He was going for his 3rd championship. And then we all know the story where his father was killed, and then he leaves the game of basketball and he goes to play baseball. And so they were interviewing him, and he says, I had enough. He goes, I had challenged myself. I had like achieved every challenge I put in front of myself. I'm no longer motivated by the game of basketball. I've reached the highest of the high. I'm the greatest of all time. I've won all the MVPs. I've got 3 championship rings. There's nothing else for me to do next in the game of basketball. He had done it all. And that's actually the biggest reason why he left the game. And he left the game and he goes and plays baseball. And, you know, he played baseball when he was a kid, but he was literally starting from scratch and he had to retrain his body. Basketball and baseball, you're training your body and your muscles in 2 completely different ways. It's 2 different ways of eating. It's 2 different ways of weightlifting, all of that. And so that was a new challenge for him. Let me start at the bottom of baseball and work my way up. And then he gets the itch to go back to basketball. So now there's a whole other challenge for him. There's a whole new growth edge for them. I now have this baseball body. I've got to literally reconstruct my body. I haven't been practicing and playing for 18 months. So I remember when he came back in the season in The Last Dance, he was so tired that first year that he came back after 18 months of being off. Well, now he has a brand new challenge. Now he has this brand new motivation. So that's what I'm talking about, even in our businesses, even with like group coaching programs, clients, the amount of money we make, whatever your growth edge is, whatever you have really mastered. One of the, we can say it's dangerous or maybe it's just time to move on, but I've definitely been in that place where you get to a certain point and you get comfortable and you start to coast. So part of what you may want to be listening to is if you already have groups, or even if you don't have groups yet, but you really have like a relatively good machine going, what I'm going to share with you could just be like a new challenge for you. Something new that comes into your life that can really motivate you to go to that next level of your own personal growth, professional growth. So in order to, so back to what I was saying a second ago, what I see happening with some people when they have group coaching programs is that they are moving people into their groups one at a time. So they're reaching out to people, they're having sales conversations one-on-one, and let's just say you want 20 people in your group coaching program. So you've got to go out and you've got to find 20 people, however you're going to go find 20 people, all separately, and then you've got to have 20 one-on-one sales conversations. Now, when I have sales conversations, I can now have them in 20 minutes, but most of you probably still have longer sales conversations, like an hour. And I remember some of my sales conversations in the past, they used to be 90 minutes. Okay, so again, even if you've transitioned to groups already, but you don't have a way to sell one-to-many, you are still maxing out your time. You're still maxing out your bandwidth. You're still hitting a ceiling for income growth, and you're hitting a ceiling for your own level of growth as a leader, as a business owner, as an individual, as a coach, as an educator, as a guide, as a mentor. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is how can we leverage the power of selling one-to-many so that you've got a number of people all joining your group coaching program at the same time. And you can do this in a short period of time. Where it becomes like the gold for your business and for yourself from a systems perspective, from a repetition perspective, from a predictability perspective, is you rinse and repeat the same way every single time you're opening up the doors to enroll a new group of people into your group, whether it is a rolling enrollment program or it's like a new cohort of people coming in and they all start and finish at the same time. If you're gonna go in that direction in your business, or if you're already there and you've already maxed yourself out, you have to learn how to sell one-to-many. So what do we need in place for that to happen? You want to take some notes. Now's probably the time when you want to start writing down some notes. So number one, in order to sell one-to-many effectively, you need a soul-aligned community that trusts you. So if you expect to have a relatively large group of people to join you all at one time to fill your group, then you need to position yourself as what I call the dominant leader of a community, not just a leader on social media. So when I say dominant leader of a community, I am not talking about being an influencer. I'm not talking about being an influencer on Instagram. I'm not talking about having 50,000 followers on Instagram so you can get a little blue check beside your name. Not talking about that. I'm not talking about being able to say like you're a public figure because you have a certain number of followers. It's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a community where you are the leader consistently and frequently over time, and all the people in the community are somewhere in the spectrum of being an ideal client for your offers. So a great example of that is a Facebook group, and that's exactly what I teach my clients to do. So that's the first thing that you need to have in place. Number two, in order to effectively sell one-to-many, and to be able to have that recurring income every single month in your business to the tune of multiple 5 figures, it's a high-end group coaching offer that actually gets results for your clients. And that actually gets results for your clients, I think, is one of the biggest challenges for a lot of coaches when they move in the direction of group coaching programs. It's actually one of the biggest fears I hear when I talk to people who are considering moving in that direction. And I'll hear things like, well, I haven't worked with enough people, or I don't know that the results that I've proven I can generate and help other people generate like that, is that enough? Can I repeat that? What if I have a group and I say what the big result is, but then my clients don't get the result? I don't know how to turn what I do one-on-one and actually teach that in a group. And then the other thing that I've really seen over the last 10 years in this industry is we get so caught up in making a bunch of money when we sell, and we forget how important it is to deliver at a level of mastery and excellence inside of the actual program. So that's number 2. In order to repetitively sell one-to-many, you've got to have a place for those people to go. And you want to have a high-end group coaching program. This isn't what the next piece I'm going to say is not a have to, but it is how I have my business model set up. My high-end group coaching program, it's a 6-month program. So when you join it, it's a 6-month commitment, but I'm bringing new people into the same program, the same Facebook group, the same calls, the same everything. They're all in there together, and some of them have been in there a year, and some of them have been in there for 2 months, some 6 months, some 8. So I created a business model that way because it makes it so much easier for me as a business owner to continue to grow, because I can do the same launch to my community and continue to generate leads. I can do the same launch, teach the same thing, sell the same program, and I can do that every other month. I could do it even more frequently if I wanted to, and I can do it every single year. So the power of that means that once you repeat the same strategy over and over and over again, this is where you become a super smart business owner. I was just talking to clients about this today. What you're able to then see is exactly where you have to optimize. So one of the reasons why perhaps your business, or when I look at someone's business and it's not growing past a certain point, and they're like, how come I'm not getting past this point? I've been stuck at this level, whatever that level is, and I cannot seem to make the jump. And when I look at their business, what I find out is they keep changing their mind. And they keep changing their mind on who the ideal client is, what their message is, and even what their offers are. So what they're not doing is they're not sticking to the same offer and moving people into the program in the exact same way, like clockwork, every single time. And what happens when you don't have something like that in place is you don't know how to repeat your success. So one of the biggest downfalls in the coaching community is that coaches are having really great runs. So they'll fill a program, or they'll have their 20K month or whatever, or they'll have a great launch, however you're launching, and they don't know how to repeat that success. Why do they not know how to repeat that success? Well, number 1, they're not synced up to the power of repetition, the power of consistency, the power of becoming masterful with one thing, one strategy. The other thing they're not doing is they're not actually tracking and evaluating what worked, what didn't work, meaning your metrics. Once you've done the same thing enough times, you can look at your metrics and your data and your numbers, and they can be really small and this still works. You know exactly what to optimize. You know exactly if you need to optimize lead generation. You know if you need to optimize, if you're in paid advertising, Facebook ads, and exactly where you need to optimize that. You can figure out if you need to optimize communication with the people who signed up for your launch event. You know if you need to optimize the way you're communicating, like in private messenger, or how are you becoming more intimate with the people who are going through your launch, considering to join your program. You know if you need to optimize something in like the sales or the follow-up or the close. You know exactly what to optimize. So what I'm teaching you here is how to take the guesswork out of it. And then finally, number 3, what you need in order to sell one-to-many and fill your group coaching programs and have recurring 5-figure income is a simple way to launch that builds human connection, leadership, and trust. So the methodology I'll talk a little bit about this today, but essentially you're launching in a really high touch, low tech way. You're launching your group coaching programs. You can also launch other things in this exact same way. So it doesn't have to be a high-end group coaching program. It could be other things. The strategy works for all of it. High touch, low tech, and it's less than 2 weeks. I mean, we're looking at like 9 days here, but you're going to do that multiple times throughout the year. You're going to do that about every 6 to 8 weeks. So just imagine for a minute. Just imagine, and if you want to take out a pen or a calculator, you can do some calculations. Let's imagine, well, you can do this on your own. How much, pick one of your offers, even if it's one-on-one at this point. Or if you've got a group, what do you charge? Or if you're starting a new group, what do you want to charge? Or if you already have a group and you want to raise the price, like what's that number? And if you want to type it in, you can. But this is more for you to do some math. Calculator or paper. I'm just going to play with like $5,000 because that's really easy. Let's say that your group is $5,000. And let's say that up to this point in 2020, you've run your group 2 times. So I'm just going to put 2 times on my paper. And let's say each time you got 8 people in the program. So $5,000, 8 people, that's $40,000 times 2. So you brought in $80,000 from one program, running it 2 times, and each time 8 people join. And that's all. Let's say that's all you did for the year. Like that's all you did. Let's just bump it up. So this is what I'm proposing. I'm going to get my calculator out for this. Let's say that, okay, let's say we leave the price at 5,000. So we're not even going to play with the price. We're just going to leave it at 5,000. And let's just say instead of 8 people every single time you run it, and I'm going to be super conservative here. Let's just say it's 12 people. So we're going to leave the price the same. We're going to say instead of 8 people, we figure out how to move 12 people into your program every time you run it, every time you launch it. And over the course of a year, in the past, maybe you've only done it twice, we're going to have you do it 6 times. So you're going to actually launch it 6 times throughout the year, every other month. So times 6. So calculator time. $5,000 times 12 people is $60,000. So $60,000 every time you run the program or do a launch and move people into it. But you're going to launch it 6 times instead of 2. So times 6, that's $360,000. All right. I just want you to wrap your mind around that and do your own math so you can actually see this. So all I did was take what you're currently doing now or what you're thinking about doing, what you think you're supposed to do. So I used a $5,000 price point group coaching program that, let's just pretend you've had 8 people in it 2 times. So it's a total of 16 people times 5,000, but you only launched it 2 times throughout the year. And in between those, who knows what you've been doing, but this is typically what people do. Typically people will fill their program and then they don't go make any sales for like 2 months or 3 months. And then all their payment plans are ending and they look at their bank account or they look at their Stripe account and they're like, oh my gosh, everybody's last payment is coming through and I don't have anything scheduled next. I need to go like get a one-on-one client like right now. And if my one-on-one client does not pay me in full, I am like up the creek without a paddle and I don't know how I'm going to like pay all my bills next month. I can't tell you how many times I have heard a version of that right there. That right there. And we've all experienced that, so there's nothing bad or wrong about that. But you don't want to continue that kind of cycle. Okay? So all I did was play with a few numbers. We left the price the same at 5,000. We just upped the number of people saying yes to your program, 12 instead of 8. And instead of only filling it 2 times, you're going to fill it 6 times throughout the year. That is the difference between $360,000 from one offer, and $80,000 from the same offer. So that is a $280,000 difference. $280,000 difference. I'm just going to write that down on my page. All right, so that's what's possible here. So what I'm teaching you today, that could be $280,000. And that was just my math. I want you to use your own numbers. What do you charge? How many people do you want in your program? But I want you to specifically use the number 6 because you will launch it 6 times at least throughout the year. So if your program is $3,000, you want 10 people in it, you're making $30,000 every time you run it. If you run it 6 times, that's $180,000 compared to what you're doing now. So also, I just gave you a 12-month time frame. So this is the difference that you could make in 12 months, okay? I just want to be super clear on what's possible here for you, and you want to be able to see that. And the reason why I want you to be able to see that is because I also want in your own time to start being really, really aware of the decisions you're making in your business that are slowing you down, So what's slowing you down, it could just be that you're not following the same launch strategy that is really, really simple, that doesn't wear you out. You're changing how you're filling your program every single time, and you're doing it in this like organic way, but you're never going to get past a certain point. Like, it will work for a little while, but that's not a long-term sustainable way to continue to serve and impact people and grow your business. So either you're launching and filling your programs in a completely different way every single time, or you are not doing it enough times throughout the year, or you are creating all these other little offers, and so every time you turn around, your offer is like a new offer, and then you've got to go create the offer, deliver the offer, figure out the messaging for the offer, the positioning for the offer, the sales process, the marketing. You've got to go figure all that out all over again. And then the other thing that's happening is you're not really putting yourself on the map as the go-to leader in your field and category. So there's 10,000 other people who do what you do, but because they are focused on the power of one thing, they're getting people's attention. So I want you to start becoming really, really aware of the decisions you're making in your business that are actually slowing you down, when look at what's possible for you to do in the next 12 months and really collapse that timeline. So I'm going to give you a couple of specifics with those 3 main things, those 3 main pointers that are going to help you sell one-to-many. So we're going to start with the soul-aligned community that trusts you, okay? So the soul-aligned community that trusts you. So we're talking about, how do I sell into my program one-to-many? Meaning there's one of you, and you're showing up, and people are listening to you, and multiple people at the same time are saying yes to your offer, and you don't even have to get on sales calls, okay? So we're eliminating time, we're eliminating hard work, we're eliminating a whole bunch of activities in different ways, different tactics, different actions, too many, that you keep using to think you're going to bring more people in. And we're also eliminating the time of you spending on sales conversations to enroll people into your program. The other thing that we are actually collapsing, most people think that they have to spend weeks filling a program. The process I teach, you do it in, your cart is only open for 5 to 6 days. So it's a really, really short cart open, cart close period. And this is for programs that are multiple 4 figures. So the soul aligned community that trusts you. Number 1 tip here is the best place to grow your community is a Facebook group. Like, really and truly, whoever your ideal client is, Facebook groups are still the best place to do that. It's still, Instagram does not rival Facebook groups. Business pages don't rival Facebook groups. LinkedIn doesn't rival Facebook groups. Now, your ideal client might be on some of those other platforms, but in terms of enrolling people one-to-many and selling out your group coaching programs, move those people into your Facebook group. It doesn't mean they can't go do what they want to do on Instagram and LinkedIn, but move them to Facebook groups. Facebook groups, by far, it is set up, the way Facebook groups are even designed, it is designed for you to be the dominant leader of a community, to build trust, and to very easily generate leads, even organically, or paid traffic. You can track a lot of data inside of groups, and you can also do your selling. Obviously, your relationship building happens inside of your Facebook group. So that's number 1. The best place to grow a community is a Facebook group. Second part of this Be intentional about how you're growing your group each day. Be intentional about how you're growing your group each day. Probably the number one question I get about Facebook groups, well, the top two are, how do I get more people in my Facebook group? And how do I get people to engage who are in my Facebook group? And if any of you have that question, it's a pretty simple answer. Yes, there are activities that you can be doing every day. There's only two ways to generate leads into your Facebook group, either your time or your money, which is paid ads. At some point, probably both, but there's no other way to do it. It's either your time or it's your money, or it's both. My tip for you today is be intentional about that lead generation time. Be intentional about that lead generation activity. So what I mean by intentional is start putting in your calendar Monday through Friday, how much time am I going to spend on generating leads and moving them into my Facebook group? Are you going to do that 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day? It really doesn't need to be any more time than 30 minutes. But the biggest reason why your community isn't growing, and I'm not even one of those people who teaches like you need 15,000 people. I mean, this Facebook group is only 1,500 and it's almost 4 years old. So I'm exceptionally intentional about who is in here. And you also want to be really intentional about bringing people in. If you're just out there making posts, if you're just out there like doing your thing, but there's no intention behind where you want people to go, that's a reason why your Facebook group isn't growing. So build in intentional time and activities that are specific every day to building that community in your Facebook group. Next point with being the dominant leader of a community, I already said this, but I'll say it again. Be intentional about who you let inside your group. Be very intentional about who you let inside your group. If you look at the Facebook platform is a funnel. The whole platform, it's a funnel. Even if you're not doing Facebook, I'm not even talking about Facebook ads, but the Facebook platform as a whole is a funnel. Your Facebook group is just a step in your funnel. So people don't start in your Facebook group. Where are you finding them? You're finding them outside of your Facebook group. You can find them on your business page. You can find them on your friends list. You can find them by doing interviews in other people's groups. You can find them in other people's groups. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on LinkedIn. I can do a whole separate training on lead generation. But be intentional about who you let in your group, because it's inside your group. That's where you're going to deploy your launches. You're going to do launches. Another way of saying the word launch is a virtual live event. A virtual live event where you're going live a certain number of days in a row and you're inviting people to join your program. Well, if you're doing that inside of your Facebook group, you want your most ideal clients in that Facebook group. So also be really intentional about who you're letting in the group. And I'll give you a couple of tips on like inside the Facebook group. The first tip is have membership questions set up. So I'm using the new view. So I don't use the classic Facebook view anymore. I'm using the new view, and it shows up on the left-hand side of your screen, and you'll see membership questions. You click that button, and you have the option to ask people when they join your group 3 questions. So what are the 3 questions that you want to ask people? What do you want to find out from people? Let me give you an extra little tip here. You want to ask people questions in those 3 I want to join your Facebook group questions. Something that their answer is basically telling you what your content should be inside of your group. So I ask people, what is your biggest challenge with launching and filling high-end group coaching programs? What's your number 1 goal this year with launching and filling group coaching programs? So based on those 2 responses, I know exactly what my content could be for the next 52 weeks inside the Facebook group. Look no further than what people are telling you they want when they join your group. There's all your content. And then the third question I ask now is, what's your email address? We're going to send you this free 40-minute training on yada, yada, yada. And then we go and then we can add them to our email list. So be very intentional about those questions you're asking, because the answers are the content you're creating for the people in your Facebook group. The next tip you want to do inside your Facebook group This is how you're setting yourself up as a leader and you're building trust. Do a weekly Facebook Live show. That's what this is. It's just on a different day and time than it usually is. So usually my standard Facebook Live show is on Mondays at 12:30, but I couldn't do it this Monday at 12:30. So we moved it to today at 1 o'clock. But next week it goes back to 12:30 on Monday. And I now have a name for my show. So I don't just call it the weekly Facebook Live show. Now it's called Momentum with Megan. So you want to do a nice, juicy, like 45-minute to hour-long weekly Facebook Live show every single week in your group. It's setting you up as a leader. You can teach the people in your group exactly what they're asking for when they're filling out those questions. You can showcase your expertise. You're getting to engage with people. You can ask them questions. They're getting to know you. They're getting to know your expertise, but they're also getting to know like how you operate, a little bit about your personality. So do a weekly show. The other thing is to do it on the same day at the same time every week, because that is a trust builder. So people are going to join your programs because they trust you. So I always say, don't open up your cart and ask people to work with you if you don't know that they already know, like, and trust you. Because if you open up your cart and you haven't done the work to build those relationships, then you don't have the relationships with people, enough of them, to actually say yes to you and fill your group coaching program. So one of the things that I teach all my clients is you cannot just show up and be on when you're in sales mode. You've got to show up in between. And any of you who are in Group Coaching Mastery, we were in another Facebook group. We started last Monday. We ended yesterday. So that was 9 full days of me doing the virtual live event, opening up the card on Thursday. So in like the sales process, Thursday through all the way last night, and somebody joined at like 10:30 last night. Well, today is the day after. I'm here live doing my weekly Facebook Live show. So this is a really good example. What happens to most people is they have a really good run and they fill their program, and then they don't do any marketing and sales, and they totally lose touch with their audience. They lose touch with their community for a little while. It's not going to matter if it's like a few days, but I'm talking like people will do it for like a month or 2 months. And then they're like, oh no, I need to make more money. So let me go back out there and try to make more money. But there's been this gap in consistency and trust building and really positioning yourself as a leader. So that weekly Facebook Live show, there is 52 weeks. You're going to do 52 weekly Facebook Live shows. The rest of your content, the whole week in your group, it's all based on whatever you taught in that weekly show. That's what makes your content creation so easy. And then the last piece on the community is monetize your Facebook group. Monetize your Facebook group. It's why I do all of my launches inside of a Facebook group. I do almost all of my selling inside of a Facebook group. And I also offer other things in between my launches. Why? Because it's your job as the business owner and the leader to train people that you're a business owner and that you are here to serve and transform, and there is monetization behind that. And there are ways that you can do that in between your launches so that you're continuing to have calls to action. Okay, so the second thing is make sure, so in order for you to sell one-to-many and continue to fill your programs and have the recurring revenue, well, what sets you up for the recurring revenue? And what sets you up to be able to sell multiple people at one time? You can't do that with one-on-one. It's have a high-end group coaching offer. Have a high-end group coaching offer that actually produces results. So your clients are actually getting results in your program. One-on-one, we already said, eventually it's going to cap you out. Most people tap out around 10 one-on-one coaching clients. And if you want to keep making money and you want to keep making new sales, in the one-on-one model, pretty much your only option is to keep raising your prices. And at some point, you're going to price yourself out of your market, or you're going to have to totally change your market. If you want to make multiple 6 figures, you need to be charging $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 just to work with you. And very few people in any of our audiences are actually going to invest that kind of money. So here's what groups do for you. Your high-end group coaching program is going to leverage your time. It's going to give you more freedom to do the things that you desire to do in your life, like hobbies, not having to sacrifice time with your husband, with your kids, with your grandkids, go on trips, enjoy living, spend time with friends, all those things, like all those things that we wanted when we started a business. You also get to really be in your zone of genius. The other really cool thing that I'm having a ton of fun with in my group coaching programs, I now have a team of 5 people. So I've got 5 people on my team, and we're all working together, and I've really so far built a team, and they've got expertise that I don't have. So what it's really allowing me to do, having the recurring income through my group coaching program, that's where I'm able to actually hire team, which then I can offload a lot of the things I'm doing that are not my zone of genius. They do it, and now I have all this time, and I have the finances to actually reinvest in my business through the vehicle of team members. I think I might have just, it says, having trouble playing this video. If you can still see me or hear me, just let me know in the comments. But I'll pause and I may need to restart. Can you hear me? Or did you lose me? Can someone let me know if you can hear me? I don't think so. All right, I'm gonna close out if you can hear me and come back. It kicked me out for some reason. I don't know why, but we're almost done. So I was at the point of talking about freedom, team. Okay, so when you have the recurring revenue from your group, that is money that you can then use to reinvest back in your business, to bring on team, to support you on the business building side, but also on the delivery side, so that now you really get to stay in your zone of genius, which is the place that all of us want to be, because it's when we're not in our zone of genius in our business, that's when we're really slowing ourselves down. So the more often we're doing the things in our business where we're not in our zone of genius, that is slowing down your progress in your business. Okay. The other thing about the one-on-one that really shifts when you do the groups, and you all know this if you're working with one-on-one or if you have in the past, eventually with one-on-one, you start to feel like a broken record. You end up doing more teaching your clients than actual coaching and transformation. And I think that was one of the things that I struggled with the most when I was doing so much one-on-one back in 2017. And even some in 2018. But I remember at the end of the week, I would evaluate my week, and the thing that really bugs me the most is that my clients who I was working with one-on-one, I was so upset because they weren't actually getting to tap into my zone of genius. Because they were asking me questions, and I was basically spending an hour in a group, in a one-on-one coaching session, teaching them like content. And it would be like simple things that they should have been listening to in like a 5-minute pre-recorded video from me, or like reading on a check sheet, versus paying me all these thousands of dollars to have a one-on-one conversation with me every week. But then I was literally just like teaching them. And what I noticed is, because all my clients were at the same level, I had done a really good job of making sure I brought people in and they all needed the same thing. And I was like, why am I doing this to them? Why am I doing this to me? All these people should be in a group. And then once they understand like the framework, all this stuff, then if they get to a certain level where it makes sense for us to do just one-on-one, we can do that. So that's the other thing that will really tire you out and create some burnout and exhaustion and maybe even some resentfulness. But what really bugs me is I noticed that people weren't tapping into my zone of genius. But through the group coaching program, you can really design that so that when people get you, it's your zone of genius. And they're not just asking like, hey, teach me how to do this 2-step process. So also having that high-end group coaching program, obviously, if you've got a high-end group coaching program, and when I say high-end, we're talking about a price point here that's like $3K to $10K. That's what allows you to be launching and have this campaign where you're enrolling people into the program over and over and over again throughout the year. So what this also eliminates from your business is the 15 offers that you think you need to have at 22 different price points. I'm over exaggerating, but the more offers you have and you're trying to like juggle all these offers, that is also slowing you down. And with every offer, it's a slightly different ideal client, it's a slightly different message, it's a slightly different marketing system and a different sales system. So for every offer you have, you basically have that many businesses within your business. So having the group coaching program makes your body of work more accessible to more people, and it reduces the number of offers and moving parts that you have in your business, which is really cool. And then the last thing, and then we're going to close out here, you need a simple way to launch that builds human connection, leadership, and trust. So you're going to launch right inside of your Facebook group every time you launch. It could be right inside of your main Facebook group, or you can do pop-up groups. You're going to sell your high-end group coaching program. You're going to launch in a way and sell in a way that is not based on a bunch of fancy funnels. It's very high touch. It's very low tech inside of your Facebook group. This is what makes it so easy to rinse and repeat. And people want to get to know you. It's too hard for people to get to know you on a sales page or 82 emails or 60-minute webinars and then decide to join your $5,000 program. So I came up with a way that really showcased your authority, showcases your personality, showcases your expertise, showcases your ability to lead community and really have people feel seen and heard, but also so that your community can get a really good sense of who you are as a person, how you treat people, how you show up, what your expertise is, and what it's like to work with you. I mean, you spend a good 9 days with people and they pretty much know if they're in or they're out based on the connection that you've built with them. It's very flexible. It's highly intuitive. It's easy to course correct. You're creating two-way engagement with people. And this is a process that you can rinse and repeat. So you want a launch strategy that's proven. It's a process, but even more than that, you're showing up, rinse and repeating the same thing over and over again. So it doesn't wear you down to the point where you feel like you've got to take a hiatus from your business for 3 months. And I've already talked a lot about the power of repetition today, so I'll just leave it at that. But I think the homework that I want you to do is go play with the numbers. Go play with the numbers. What's the price point of your program? How many people do you want in your program? But I want you to use the number 6 in terms of the number of times you're enrolling people into the program. And just play with different numbers. If you want to launch 4 times, play with the number 4. 6 times, play with 6. You can even do it 8 times a year. I just want you to see what those numbers are. And I'll just also share with you I wasn't really planning on this, but we actually just enrolled a new group of people into our Momentum program, which is designed to help coaches and service-based entrepreneurs create, launch, and fill their group coaching programs. So we teach you our Launching Made Easy methodology. Also, we also help our clients know what am I actually offering in between. But we just finished a launch yesterday and orientation starts at the end of this week. So if what you've heard me share today is kind of piqued your interest and you want to learn more about that program and you would want to go ahead and jump in, we have orientation at the end of this week. We get started next week with this new group. Like I said, Momentum is rolling enrollment, so there's people already in there. But if what you've heard today is really interesting to you, enticing to you, you're moving in the direction of groups, or you're already there and you want to relaunch and really optimize your launching process and eliminate all the things that you're doing in your business so it's much more simple, just send me a private message. Just send me a private message. Let me know that you heard this video. Let me know that you're interested in Momentum. And then I'll just send you some more details via private messenger. And we can chat on Messenger. If it makes sense for us to get on a quick 20-minute call, then we can decide that in Messenger. But if you like what you heard today and that program sounds like a really great next step for you with group coaching programs and rinsing and repeating a launch strategy, just shoot me a PM. And sorry about the technical difficulties we had today with this video. I don't know what that was. And we will be back next week for Momentum with Megan. It's always Megan. Always on Mondays at 12:30 Eastern Time. That is our normal weekly live show. So we will be back next week, Mondays at 12:30. And until then, I will see you inside the Facebook group.